This week on Archery 101, we're covering the dominant eye. All right, here we go. Ready for this? All right, first, we need to understand why it is that the dominant eye is not the same as the dominant side in our bodies. This would make sense, right? But as we know, 9 out of 10 people are right-handed, yet only 2/3 of the population is right-eye dominant. How can this be? Well, this is because both hemispheres of our brain controls our eyes. But each one takes charge of a different half of the field of vision and therefore a different half of both retinas. Got that? So, unlike your hands, which this hand is controlled by this side of the brain, I believe, this eye is not controlled by this side or this side. This one eye is controlled by both sides. Pretty good stuff, huh? In a study by Arlene Zaycon and J. Douglas Crawford, titled Ocular Dominance, Reverses as a Functional of Gaze and Angle. All right, this is where it starts getting good. They tested the standard methods used to judge eye dominance, and in this study, in their conclusion, they stated, here we show this static concept to be flawed, being based on the limited results of sighting with gaze pointed straight ahead. In a grasp task for targets within the binocular visual field, subjects switched between left and right eye dominance depending on horizontal gaze angles. On average, ocular dominance switched at gaze angles of only 15.5 degrees off center. Whoa. So your dominant eye, according to the study, can switch from your left eye to your right eye. I think that's important in archery. Now, take a look at this picture right here. This is me shooting. Pretty good looking guy, huh? All right, just over. I love that bow, by the way. That's fudge. So as you can see in this picture, my left eye is over the arrow. And according to the study, it is actually my right eye that is dominant. But everybody's saying, well, I'm right-handed, but my left eye is dominant. Well, actually, if you go by the study, it would be that way anyways. All right, it's whatever hand's forward is going to be closer. Now, it gets better. In another study by Martin Banks, Chandra Ghose, and James Hillis titled Relative Image Size, Not Eye Position, Determines Eye Dominance Switches. In this study, they stated, a recent paper examined eye dominance with the eyes forward in an eccentric gaze. When observers were looking to the left eye tended to dominate, and when they're looking to the right eye tended to dominate. The authors attributed the switch in eye dominance to extra retinal signals associated with horizontal eye position. However, when one looks at a near object on the left, the image in the left eye is larger than the one in the right eye. Makes sense, right? And when one looks to the right, the opposite occurs. Thus, relative image size could also trigger switches in eye dominance. We used a Q-conflict pentagram to determine whether eye position or relative image size is the determinant of eye dominance switches, with changes in gaze angle. When eye position and relative image size were varied independently, there was no consistent effect of eye position. Relative image size appears to be the sole determinant factor of which eye switches to. So, let's go back to that picture. According to them, it's which eye the target is closest to. So if you're shooting like me left-handed, the target is closest to my right eye, because I don't shoot with my head straight on. I shoot with my head at a slight angle. So once again, the dominant eye is not my eye looking over the arrow. It's actually the other hand. But there's one thing you should know what these guys are saying. None of them denied the fact, the second study, that the eye switches. What they're just disputing is the reason why the eye switches. All right, You know one thing, it's now a fact that it's accepted in the scientific community that dominant eye switches. It is no longer a set thing. There's too many studies to support this. So that's the big thing we got to get from this. The dominant eye can and it does switch back and forth. Now, so how does this affect archery is the next question. Well, if you're like me, you've heard people talk about it. You heard people say they're struggling with it, and they say it affects them, and it affects their shooting. But how can this be if the dominant eye switches back and forth? You know? Well, while reading up on this and trying to find out information, I found several interesting studies where they tested this possibility. Right? And the first one I'll cover is the effect of interaction between hand-eye dominance on dart skills. It's made by Rahil Razhagi. Oh man, I love these names. Parvena Shafi, Nia, Nahid Shibab, Basheri, and Fazad Maliki. Good Irish names there. Well, those people, I don't know if they're guys or girls because I don't really understand. Those look like they're possibly Iranian, right? But they did a study. They used 100 random male students. They administered the hole in the card test and the Porta test to determine eye dominance. The test subjects were given 4 weeks of training, which they did 3 times a week. All right, so they showed them how to play darts and they let them practice for 4 weeks, 3 times a week. So in this test, this is what they found. I'm quoting from their actual paper. Results show that there are no significant differences in acquisition and retention phases. So, interaction between eye and hand dominance do not have any significant effect on dart skill. In other words, there is no difference between cross and lateral unilateral groups in dart throwing. So what does this mean for us archers? What they're telling you is that crossed eye, same eye does not make a difference in your shooting ability. Pretty simple, right? That's one study, but are there more? Good thing yes, because there are. Another study was titled, A Study of the Effect of Eye Dominance on the Success of Golf Putting. This is by Martha Jo Rodman and some other person here, something Lawley. Now, in this study, they asked 2 questions. The first question was, would subjects putting using a dominant eye different from subjects using a non-dominant eye with the same amount of practice and instruction? Would gains in putting performance result from 4 weeks of practice for subjects putting with vision of the dominant or non-dominant eye occluded? I don't know. But they thought they'd find out. So buried in this study while I was reading it, I found this very fascinating line. And the line goes, there's 2 studies involving archery and bowling skills. These studies showed that the dominant eye did not cause significant gains in performance. Now, I can't find the studies. They didn't actually bookmark it. I wish they would. I'm going to try to find another copy of this study, and hopefully I'll be able to do it. All right. Now, their conclusion, or how they did it, was in this test, they used 21 subjects. They were selected from TVO classes at the beginning of golf at Texas Tech University. The 2 groups putted using only the dominant eye. 2 groups putted using only the non-dominant eye. Now, the conclusion of this study, and I quote, based on the results obtained and within the limitations of the study, the following statements may be made. 1. Eye dominance is not a factor in putting. 2. Practice with either the dominant or non-dominant eye for 4 weeks results in improved putting performance. All right. So once again, they found it didn't make a difference, and if you practice for 4 weeks, they overcame any biomechanical uncomfortable feelings and things like awkwardness that you might have. You know, finally, on this whole subject, I'd like to give you my personal experience. 1, I'm a lefty. Been born a lefty my whole life. Right? I bat left, but I throw right. I can shoot a bow left or right-handed pretty much with the same amount of accuracy. I can shoot a firearm left-handed. I can bowl left or right-handed. I paint with an airbrush with my right hand but with a brush with my left hand. Don't ask me why. All right. You know, the reason I learned to shoot left-handed is because I injured my finger. Now, I learned to shoot right-handed as a kid for a simple reason. Because I was one of 3 brothers. My dad's right-handed, my 2 brothers are right-handed. My dad was not going to go out and buy me a left-handed bow and make all them share. So like so many lefties in this world, I was forced to adapt to a right-handed world. Not complaining, that's just how things were back then, right? Why did I learn to throw right-handed? So I could share gloves, but I could use anybody's bat. That's why I batted left-handed. Now the reason I shoot a firearm right-handed most of the time is a real simple one. Was in the service with the M16A1 rifle, which I love by the way. You had a regular occurrence of brass hitting you in the face. And they really didn't like you to shoot left-handed in the Army when I was in. So I went with the flow. I went right-handed. Now, I can, here recently, I have not shot left-handed with a bow, all right, until 3 years ago. So from the 1970s up to 3 years ago, I shot nothing but right-handed. But one day I pinched a nerve in this finger, lost the feeling in my right hand, and I didn't want to stop, so I started shooting left-handed. Took me a little bit, but I picked it up, and now I shoot left-handed more than I do right-handed. Why? It's a great reason, or a great question, I should say. It's because I was able to take my shot cycle and craft it. My right-handed shot cycle is one made from years of messing things up and doing things totally wrong. Right? You got those ingrained habits built in. My left hand was a clean slate. So I was able to build a good shot cycle from the beginning using my left hand. You know, and I can shoot just as well, left or right hand. You see my videos. If you watch my videos in 3D archery, you can see I'm not that shabby with either hand. All right. So one of the things I do, I believe that, you know, in general, I hate generalities, but I'm going to use it. You know, lefties have an easier time shooting both sides. Why? Because it's something we had to do our whole lives. I mean, be it scissors, a cup, a screwdriver, etc. We just learned how to do things both sides. Even tying shoes. Believe it or not, tying your shoe left-handed is different than tying your shoe right-handed. I had to have my aunt come over and teach me because my mother got so frustrated trying to teach me because she's a righty, right? And I think it's this accommodation that we naturally have done. It's always made it easier for us to adjust shooting to the other side. Now, you probably noticed throughout this whole video, I have not mentioned binocular and monocular vision. You know, many people say that is why the dominant eye is not important. But I can tell you this, I've done a lot of searching, calling people, things like that, and I could find nothing at all to support that statement. In fact, most studies dismiss binocular vision being the reason why dominant eye is not important out of hand. There's no empirical evidence to support it. You know, and I'll have to admit, I too was of this opinion. Because I thought, well, when I shoot, I look at both eyes. Right? That's what they tell you. So dominant eye doesn't matter. Even if you look straight on, one eye is doing most of the processing. They both process the same, but one does more. How much is that going to affect your shooting? That's up to you. You know, study says not at all. All right? So, the dominant eye. And does it affect you? I know it doesn't affect me. I can prove that any day in the range. You know, and I have the studies, which I showed you today, just a few of them. This shows it does not make any difference. You know, if you think it does, I would love to see the studies you have found that supports that claim. You know, saying you know a guy that does this, that's not proof. All right? There's somebody that always does something strange. So just because one person or 5 people does it doesn't make it real. Studies, scientific studies done in a scientific method, accredited and peer reviewed, that's what I go by. All right? But it doesn't really matter what I think. Right? It's a matter what you think. Maybe it is a big deal. Maybe it's not a big deal. You know what? I don't know. But again, tell me what you think about the dominant eye. And I hope this video gave you some food for thought. Now, if you're wondering about the studies that I listed, in the section down below the screen, the info section, open that up and I'll list some links to the studies that I use. All right, boys and girls, dominant eye. Real, not real? I don't know. Everything that I read says it's not real. But I've heard many people argue passionately that it is. Let me know what you think. All right? Let's have some fun. Get out there and start shooting. Don't panic about the dominant eye if you're a new archer. Just shoot. Just shoot. That's all you gotta do. It will all come with time. All right, like the video? Give me that thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. If you didn't, let me know why. You know, just saying you didn't like it without telling me, I can't make things better. All right, appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Or 2 or 3 weeks later, because my schedule's really hectic right now, with an all-new episode of Archery 101.